Hey guys, what's up? What it do? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Self-Care Sunday. If you're new here, please take a second, go down below, hit that subscribe button and click that little bell button so you don't miss when I post a new video. Okay, so we are back with another self-care / skincare session. If you've been following me for at least the past year or two, then you know that way back in like 2018, I kind of like spoke into the universe that I wanted to find myself and just kind of figure out how to walk further into my purpose. I was a junior. I think I was a junior going into being a senior in college, and I was just kind of lost about what it is I wanted to do, which is completely normal. Like in our teens and even in our 20s, we're just kind of wandering, trying to figure out what the heck it is, you know, we're really supposed to do on this earth. So I literally spoke it out into the universe that I wanted to find myself. And at the time, I didn't really see it as like a spiritual journey. I just kind of saw it as me wanting to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. But now, fast forward 2 years later, and looking back at the things that I've gone through and the growth that I've had, I really realized that I kind of started my own spiritual journey, and I didn't even realize that that's what it was at the time. But whenever you decide to become intentional, or you decide to become aware of the steps that you're taking to move forward in life, I feel like that's when you ultimately begin your spiritual journey. And I feel like nothing else around you can manifest properly if you're not constantly working on your inner spirit. So today I'm going to be giving you guys a big update on that journey and just some things that I've realized. And like I said, I'm going to be doing my skincare. I've already cleansed and toned my skin. I'm just going to go straight into my mask because I don't think I have so much to say that I'm going to be talking during my whole skincare routine. I'm probably also not going to speak on the products that I'm using. I'm just going to put them down below just because I want to focus on more so what I'm saying. Also, feel free to comment below anything that you might resonate with throughout the video. Oh, and before we get into it, can we please just acknowledge that my last video got 1 million views in like 5 days? That has never ever happened to me in YouTube history. And although I feel like I got kind of lucky because I was just so on trend with the whole iOS 14 update, I am so grateful because I have been trying to get to a point where I can pay off my credit cards, and I'm pretty sure I've spoken that to you guys. I just didn't know how the heck I was going to be able to do so on top of paying my bills, on top of trying to save, on top of investing in myself and all this other stuff. And then out of nowhere, I have a video that blows up, and obviously you guys know I get paid for YouTube, so September is gonna be like my most fruitful month in the history of me doing YouTube, and I'll be able to use that money to invest into myself, which you guys will see soon. I'm rebranding my entire brand, my YouTube, my social media, everything. And I'm also gonna be able to like pay off 2 of my credit cards, so I'm just so grateful. Today I have some water. No fruit in it today just because I have some grapes right here with me. Also, I just finished that time of the month literally this week, and usually I don't get much hormonal acne, but this month I don't even want to get too close for y'all to see, but I have like 4 or 5 pimples down here. I got like 2 pimples up here. The mask I'm gonna put on today is the Kiehl's Calendula Petal Infused Calming Mask. You guys know I've been experimenting with like gel mask and cream mask more so than like clay mask. So I decided to give this one a try, and I'm also going to put on these Patchology Flash Patch Rejuvenating Eye Gels. Okay, so if you haven't watched like my previous chit chats before they were Self-Care Sunday and I was just kind of in my dorm room in college talking, I recommend going back to look at those because you'll be able to really see what I'm talking about in terms of my transition from then. But to make a long story short, like I mentioned earlier, I had spoke into the universe that I wanted to like find myself, right? And at the time I didn't really know what the heck that meant. I didn't know what steps I was gonna have to take to start figuring that out for myself. I was just like, I want to find myself. And needless to say, like ever since then, I feel like the universe was like, okay, that's what you want. And then they just started throwing stuff at me. Like when I say throwing stuff at me, I mean like real life stuff that I wasn't used to going through back then. Like actually managing my money properly and paying all my bills myself. Getting into my first serious relationship, which at the time back then, me and my boyfriend knew each other. We had met, but we weren't together yet. So I didn't even see that happening for us at the time. But then it did. And with it being my first serious relationship, of course, when you are in your first real relationship, you go through real relationship things for the first time. You have to really be careful what you ask for because the universe will turn around and really give it to you. And when it happens, you're not really gonna understand why until everything comes full circle. And I feel like I kind of had a full circle moment that I want to share with you guys. It's not even one full circle moment, it's more like a bunch of things making sense now. So I mentioned this in one of my other self-care Sunday videos, but I've always been the baby in my family. I've always been the one that was kind of to myself, like didn't really like talking to people that much. I've always been comfortable by myself. I wasn't an only child, but my older brother was like 12 or 14 years older than me, so you know, like the age gap, I kind of felt like an only child at times. So I learned how to entertain myself. I learned how to feel comfortable by myself. So my whole life I've been okay with like not socializing much. I've always been outgoing when necessary. I've never been standoffish to the point where I would be with a group of people and just like not say anything or be rude, but I always felt comfortable being by myself. So on top of my environment kind of conditioning me to be that way, I'm also an Aquarius. So you guys know, like, well, I don't know if you know or not, but if you're Aquarius, and I'm sure you know, we just love our alone time. We love our peace. We're very eccentric. We don't like, you know, dealing with people if we don't have to. However, 2020, I think we all were thrown off by this year, but like the biggest thing that I realized that happened to me was serious detachment. Like, even though my whole life I've been kind of detached from people, like I would be very surface level with them, like hi, bye, how are you doing, you know, that's great, bye. Like I would keep things very cookie cutter and very like not in depth to myself the way that I feel like I should have expressed myself more. I would keep it very surface level. This year in 2020, with being in quarantine and really not having to socialize, it was a whole different level of detachment. And for somebody like me that likes to be alone anyway and will avoid, you know, going out if necessary, it felt good. Like it was like, yes, I get to be by myself. Just got to deal with my boyfriend and that's it. You know, like it was great, but I didn't really realize what was happening at the time. If you're new here, then you probably don't know, I am originally from Baltimore, Maryland, but I moved to Miami, Florida for college. And then after college, which I graduated last year in 2019, I decided to stay in Miami, you know, like get my own place and keep working here and whatever. So when I moved from Baltimore, well, before I even moved, I was never really that close to my family. And I had like a select amount of friends that I would really open up to and would really let know myself. So when I moved, because I already wasn't that close to my family like that, well, not my family, but just like certain people in my family, when I moved, it made it even easier for me to not, you know, communicate with them and not really talk to them that much. I don't want to say easier like I wanted it to be that way, but it just happened that way. You know, like I'm in Florida, everybody's going to different schools in different cities, different states. And so I really only kept in touch with people that I was already used to talking to a lot, you know, which wasn't many people to begin with. So needless to say, I was already not that close to my family, but then once this whole quarantine thing happened and I really got even more comfortable with like being by myself and not communicating with people, it got worse. And I feel like it kind of came off as though I didn't care about anybody else, or I didn't care to communicate, or I didn't care to like follow up with people or see how they're doing, when it really wasn't like that. It was kind of a subconscious thing where I was already comfortable being by myself, but now I have a reason to be by myself and I can just shut off from the whole world, you know? And then on top of me not really being close to many people like that and not really socializing that much, I've always subconsciously been just hyper aware of what people might think of me. Me being the youngest and me being the quietest and just like, I don't know, someone that was always to myself. Like I said, subconsciously kind of tried to maintain that innocent, not innocent, but like just like I'm always okay type of persona. When people would ask me, you know, like how are you doing, like what's going on, I would just keep it very, I'm good, like I'm good. And I feel like some people probably felt like I was hiding something from them, or that I was, you know, just not being as open as I should, when in reality I feel like this season, I like to call it, of detachment was necessary for me to learn how to build myself as I am and learn how to be comfortable with the way that I think and the way that I am without subconsciously being hyper aware of what people think about me. Because one of the main reasons why I would always keep it surface level and not really get in depth into what was really going on was because I was afraid of what people would say, how they would respond, what they would think of me, because they've never seen me as me, because I never let people see me like that when I was growing up. You know, I was always, like I said, to myself. And so now that I'm an adult and I'm going through adult things, it's like, okay, I don't really know how to express what's going on because I've never done it before. And on top of never doing it and never being open about what was really going on in my life, I am scared what people are going to think of me. You know what I'm saying? Subconsciously. I'm not consciously like, oh my God, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? I'm scared. Like, it's not like that. It's more like me subconsciously holding myself back to prevent people from seeing me a certain way, or to prevent people from judging me based off of what I'm going through or what I'm doing. So like I said, I feel like this season of detachment forced me to build my like personal confidence muscle. You guys know I like to always reference things to muscles. But that's just because I feel like the more you work your muscle, the better you get at it, right? So me detaching myself completely from everybody and everything just kind of helped me sit in myself and figure out who I really am without worrying about or letting what I say or what I think be influenced by what someone else might think or say about me. And me being on YouTube, I feel like people probably assume that I'm just this very confident person and I just don't care what people think, but it's never been like that for me. I've always been subconsciously hyper aware of what people think about me, to the point where I'll be in a situation like at school or at work where I just won't answer a question just because I'm scared it might not come out the way that I want it to. Or even just in situations where it's like a group or a collective thing, I'll just kind of be the one not really inputting my ideas or not really saying what I think would make it better, or just not giving my full input because I'm afraid that people might not like it, or people might not agree with it, and I'll just kind of be the one letting someone else lead. And it's like, with the career path that I want for myself, I cannot be like that. Like, I have to be a leader. I have to be somebody that is okay with speaking up and speaking out and not being subconsciously hyper aware of what people think. And so, like I said, me detaching myself from people, I feel like forced me to really sit in my own ideas and become more confident in the things that I believe and the things that I like. And so when I'm ready to talk to other people fully about myself, what I'm going through or what I think, I can do it from an unapologetic place instead of a place of fear of what they might think or what they might say. On top of that, I'm also very sensitive. So that plays a big part in why I never used to speak up much, because since I was always aware that I'm sensitive, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where someone might hurt my feelings. So I might think something, but I won't say it because I don't want to create confrontation or create a situation where someone might say something back based off of what I said that'll hurt my feelings, you know? Like, I've always been an overthinker in that way, where I will create situations that haven't even happened yet out of fear. And so I feel like I was never truly just secure in myself. And that's why I've always admired people who just spoke out and spoke up regardless of what people thought or people said. People who just like don't care and just say whatever, and you know, even if people don't agree with them, they still stand by what they feel or what they say, because I've never had that before. I've never had the strength to do that before. And like I said, it may seem that way, especially with like my journey through me cutting my hair 5,000 times on the internet, or me making certain decisions and being open about it on the internet. But like in my personal life or in my real life, I've never really had that. And like I said, this season of detachment really forced me to be like, okay, Kaice, this is how you feel about this. This is what you think about this. This is what you're going through, and this is how you're going to deal with it. And you need to be secure in yourself and unapologetic about it, because nobody else's opinion on what you do in your life really matters that much. And so I feel like I've always had very good intuition. Like, I've always, in my spirit, like I've always known right from wrong for me. I've always been able to like sense when I'm in a situation that's not good for me. I've always been able to form my own thoughts and opinions about things based off my intuition, but I was never open and never loud about it the way that I should have been, because of all these fears of being judged or being afraid to say the wrong thing. But I was also never really confident in my intuition in the past either, which is why I never felt secure in myself. But as I'm growing up and as I'm going through more things, it's like, okay, you really know what's best for yourself. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so that's why I really feel like my spiritual journey started way before I realized it did, because I've always had my intuition. And my intuition told me on that day, like, okay, now it's time for you to start working on yourself. Now it's time for you to start figuring out, you know, what your purpose is. And the universe heard me. And like I said, they threw all these things at me that made me continue to grow. And I genuinely feel like I would have never gotten to a place where I'm realizing all these like character flaws about myself if I never put it out there that day that I wanted to figure out how to walk further into my purpose. Because when you're born, you already have everything equipped in you to do what it is that you're supposed to do on this earth, right? But as you go through life and you go through things and your environment, you know, has a huge influence on yourself, when you get older, you have to kind of like unlearn things that were not meant for you. And you have to think about how things that you've experienced or things that influenced you have affected the way that you do things that aren't in line with the person you need to be to walk in your purpose. And so me being afraid to speak up, me being afraid to talk to people, me being surface level and not deep the way that I know that I am with other people, those are not things that I can be and be this successful person or the successful business person that I want to be. And like I said, I've always been very intuitive. I thrive off vibes. That's how I've always been able to create good friendships with people. That's why I have a solid group of friends. Like I have like 5 like diehard friends, because I've been with the vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like I know who's supposed to be in my life and who's not supposed to be in my life. I know when someone's supposed to leave and when they're supposed to stay. I know when I'm supposed to cut somebody off and when I'm supposed to keep working things out. Like I've always had it in me to just know, but I've never trusted it the way that I should have growing up. And now that I'm realizing that, yes, girl, your intuition is actually on point, you need to trust it and be secure in it. Now I can be more open and more unapologetic about the things that I do and the things that I say, because I know that at the end of the day, I know what's best for me. And I feel like everybody has that in them, but it's very easy to let life convince you that you don't. Okay, I'm gonna go rinse off my face mask and take off my eye patches, and I'll be right back. Ooh, that felt so good. My skin feels way more hydrated. So usually the way that I come up with the ideas for these like self-care Sunday talks, or just when I come on and talk about my journey, it's when I've already gone through it and I've come to the realization that things are connecting. I literally have notes and notes and notes filled in my computer where I just write out what I'm thinking sometimes. And once they get like a little long and things are starting to make sense, that's when I come on and I talk to you guys. So if you are also on like a spiritual journey, or you're just like trying to figure things out, I highly recommend writing down your thoughts, or typing them the way I like to type them. Because you'll look back and you'll be like, okay, I wrote this on this day because this was happening. You'll come back to that like 2 months later when you make more realizations, and things will connect. Like I said, I kind of started this journey 2 years ago, and I spoke into the universe that I wanted to find my purpose. And obviously it didn't happen, you know, that fast, because it's still in the process and it's still happening 2 years later. But I feel like I go through a lot of different seasons that teach me different things. So 2020 was literally my season of detachment. There's no way I would be able to manage my relationship on the level that I have by listening to other people, or listening to what people, you know, other people's advice on what I should do. Like I said, my intuition is so strong, and now that I'm in a place where I trust it, I'm able to make decisions based off of myself and what I think, and not what others think. There's also no way that I would be able to manage my business the way that I do, listening to other people, or listening to what people might think, or what they might genuinely feel is best for me, because my intuition is always going to overpower that. So I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to convince you to cut people off for a year, or to completely detach yourself from reality for a year. But I do genuinely feel like if you just take some time to yourself to just trust, get in a place where you can trust your intuition, you'll be able to make decisions way better, and you'll be able to make them from a place that you know is right for yourself. Because no matter what you're doing in life, no one's ever going to know the full story. You can explain something like to a T to someone else, and their perspective might not fit your perspective, and it might make you make decisions that aren't in line with what you're really supposed to do. And my whole life, like literally my entire life, I've done things based off of what I think other people will like, or what people might think of me, or how they might perceive me. And at the time, of course, growing up, I never saw it that way. I always just saw it as, you know, doing the right thing, or being easy to compromise with, or I don't know, being the diplomat. But sometimes you have to put your foot down and do things how you want to do them. And I really, like I said, my business, my relationship, even my personal development, I don't think I would have grown so much this year if I would have continued staying in that mindset of doing things based off of what other people might think. And like I said, it was very subconscious. I was not purposely just like trying to be a people pleaser or trying to come off as perfect. It was just like something that I've always done since I was little, and I've never unconditioned myself to doing or not doing it. And it's a process, especially if you're just used to not being a mental leader. It's really not easy to wake up one day and be like, okay, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Especially because it's very easy to not trust yourself sometimes. And I feel like that was always my problem. Like, I just never really trusted myself as much as I should have. I always felt like I needed a second opinion, or that, I don't know, I just didn't trust myself. Even though I've always had this strong intuition. Like, people always ask me, how do you stay so peaceful? How do you, you know, make the kind of friends that you have? And it's genuinely just the vibes. Like, I thrive off that. I actually feed off of other people's energy. And so if I don't feel right in a certain energy or in a certain situation, I can sense that. But the problem was that before, even though I sensed things, I wouldn't trust it. And that's in good situations and in bad situations. There would be good situations that I felt were good, but someone else may have perceived as bad. So since they thought it was bad, I would just go with what they thought instead of going with my intuition, which was telling me it was good. Or there may be a situation that was bad for me. Someone else might say like, no, this is actually good. And so I'll go with what they say, thinking that it's good because they said it was good when my intuition told me it was actually bad. So if you don't get anything else out of this video, I hope that you get to trust your intuition, because she's never going to steal your wrong. And I feel like before you can even get to a point where you trust your intuition, you have to get to a point where you kind of have an idea of what you want out of life. Now that I don't know how to give guidance on, because for me, just kind of figuring out my purpose was just dabbing into different things and, you know, seeing what felt best. But once you have a clear vision of what you want out of your life, and you have a clear vision of your goals, you can really trust your intuition and say, this fits or this aligns with where I'm going and this doesn't. And nobody else can tell you how to get to your ultimate vision, because nobody else can see it but you. So it's so important to really have a real vision for yourself in your life, because you might want something out of life that the other person might not necessarily want. So how can you take advice from them on how to get to that place if y'all don't want the same things or y'all don't have the same vision, you know? So yeah, I feel like this video is going to be like 30 minutes long, but I hope that you guys got something out of it. Comment below if anything resonated with you, or if you're going through the same thing, or if you went through the opposite and maybe you became more outgoing during COVID. I don't know. I know that a lot of you guys have been following me, you know, since those videos back in 2018. So this is just another step in my journey to finding myself. And every day, honestly, every day I feel closer. But this year, like this season was really my season to detach, so I can come back and reattach to the things that I love and the people that I love from a more unapologetic place, and from a place that's Kaice, you know, because I was never Kaice growing up. I feel like I was whoever Kaice needed to be to fit in at the time, or whoever Kaice needed to be to look a certain way to people at the time. Like, I never developed myself the way that I should have and been unapologetic and open about it, which is so important. Like, the older I get, the more I realize, like, you gotta have your own voice in life. So hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And hopefully I'll see you guys all in the next one.